Send it back to Canberra now, joining us live, as we often do on a Friday, the Shadow Trade and Tourism Minister, Kevin Hogan. Kevin, good to see you. So we will start off with The Voice, because some pretty blank language has come from the opposition leader, Peter Dutton, to say it's bound to fail. I know you're not going to support the Voice as it stands at the moment, but what do you make of his comments? Do you agree with him?
Yeah, I do, Pete. I think really the Prime Minister is taking the Australian public as mugs. I mean, changing the Constitution is a huge thing. And again, we just keep saying there's no detail. The detail's very scant, and it seems to be the lines are from them is, we want to pass this through a referendum and then we'll give you more detail and we'll legislate and we'll give you all the data and detail of how it works afterwards. Look, that is taking the public as mugs. There's some real questions around this. We have them as a party of the Nats. We're opposed in the sense we think it segregates the community. We think it invalidates the 1,100 Aboriginal groups that advocate for their needs now, and the record number of federal MPs who are Indigenous in federal Parliament, and the constitutional questions that it raises about how the High Court will interpret federal Parliament v The Voice. So big questions of which we get no answers. I think the government is taking us all for mugs on this.
Well, what about the claims from the government that say it's an advisory body? It's just to advise. Is that anything to be afraid of?
No, but there's many constitutional lawyers, including an ex-High Court judge, say that's not how it can work. If you've constitutionally recognised a body like The Voice, and then they are in dispute over an issue with federal Parliament, how will the High Court... There will be challenges. There will be challenges taken to the High Court about that. How will the High Court interpret that? That's anyone's guess. So that is a very real concern from anyone who looks at this really closely and has views on the High Court and the Constitution. So it's a real question of which, they say, no, it's just an advisory body, but we know there's going to be constitutional challenges on it through the High Court, and that's, those questions need to be resolved.
Scott Morrison reckons Chinese officials should be slapped with sanctions via the Magnitsky laws. How do you feel about that?
No, I disagree. And look, I have a lot of respect for the previous Prime Minister, and he, during his time as PM, had a lot of insights into national security in other countries and other officials. But look, I think in the last little while, the wolf warrior diplomacy from China has lessened. They have, in some ways, handed out a bit of an olive branch. All the sanctions they put on us were illegal, and they should have never happened in the first place. But the fact is that that's now thawing, and they are now alleviating and dropping some of those sanctions I think is a great thing. Certainly, we have issues with some of the domestic situations within China and other things they do and say. That happens with every country. But they are thawing things with us, allowing products in that they weren't previously. I think that's good news, and I don't think we should be putting sanctions on at the moment.
But why not? I mean, why not continually call them out for the human rights abuses of the Uighur people?
We should, and I think that certain things, and I think there should be very much, especially behind closed doors, really blunt discussions and discussions about things that aren't okay, as I'm sure they would have on a couple of things that maybe they're not happy what we do. But look, we need to, behind closed doors, call them out and push them on lots of things. And there's other international forums where we can put pressure on every country, not just China, about things that we don't think are okay in international rules and regulations. But look, at the moment, if we're talking about trade and sanctions, I think that's thawing. I think that's a great thing for a lot of our exporters, and I don't think we should be reintroducing sanctions right now, no.
Do you think, though, that, we're at the whim of the Chinese leadership here. They can get trade back on track, can't they? And whether that's lobster or coal or wine, we hope, down the track, can't they just reinstate increase taxes whenever they feel like it, if there's something that's said from Australia down the track that they don't like?
Well, yes, and we've seen that, and we think everything they did over the last few years has been illegal, and certainly not within the rules of the World Trade Organisation, so we don't think that was okay. That being said, that's thawing, that's good. But look, and that's for every Australian exporter now and every Australian business who does export to China. They need to keep that very conscious in the way they operate, and it's never good to have any big part of your business just have one customer for it. So that's for the Australian exporters to look and diversify their exports, which I think this has done anyway, which is a good thing.